If you like today's content, please like, subscribe, comment down below, share, and click the notification bell for future content. Thank you.
And I see these lights in the water. So I get down and I'm like, what is that in the water? And they're just so out there and so ridiculous that I'm like, oh my God, like, what am I doing here? You've got a very supportive younger generation coming into the field of ufology, who are ready to ask new questions. Oh, cheers, my man.
Oh, yes. Cheers.
Gotta show you my
I love the
mug.
mug. I love it.
This
awesome.
came from one of my listeners, actually. He went out to Area 51.
Oh, really? Oh.
And I don't know if you can catch this on the camera. Yeah, it's actually got like the little alien logo on it. So I thought it was appropriate for this conversation.
Did he get it during the raid?
No,
much
earlier. No, he's like an OG. He's been out to Area 51 for years and years. So I was super happy and honored that he gave me this. So I hold it very close to my heart. So cheers.
That's great. Yeah, well, cheers and welcome officially to this episode of Coffee and UFOs.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be on. I've been watching for a while now, so I'm a big fan, my man.
Oh, thank you, man. And for everyone listening, this is Ryan Sprague. If you don't know him, he is the author of Somewhere in the Skies and the fantastic podcast Somewhere in the Skies as well. So I implore you all to go to iTunes or whatever you use to subscribe to his podcast. I'll start with the first question. I just like to cut to the chase. So for those who are familiar with this series, we ask the same questions to everyone. And it's just interesting to get everyone's different take on this. Different ufologists, enthusiasts, like I call myself, because I was talking to Cheryl Costa on a recording I did with her. And, we were talking about what is a UFO researcher, what is a ufologist, and I was like, I don't fall in any of those categories. And I don't like it when people call me that because I'm an enthusiast. I haven't written a book. I haven't published anything, any findings as it were. And I think that term gets tossed around a lot. A lot of people call themselves armchair researchers, and I think that's kind of okay if you tack on armchair researcher, because it basically means you're at home reading a lot of books. Which is cool. That's great. But to go out there and actually call yourself a ufologist, I think there's a lot of people that do that loosely.
Yeah, and I've been guilty of that at times too, because I'm not like a boots on the ground, MUFON field investigator where I'm going out every week and hunting UFOs. But I did travel the country for almost a year, interviewing people in all walks of life about their UFO encounters. So for me, I like to call myself a UFO journalist. I don't have a journalism degree. There is no ufology degree either. So I kind of just mashed them together, and that's kind of where I lay, somewhere in that nebulous area, I guess.
There probably is a lot of nebulous area. I guess if I were to be liberal with myself, I'll probably slap that label on that episode with Cheryl. But maybe I would call myself an amateur ufologist.
There you go, my man. There you go.
I don't know. But I think with you, you do deserve the title. Honestly, because on the occasion I'll write just a blog piece, right? Very rarely. And when I do, it takes time. It takes effort, not just to just kind of fact check yourself, but, just to put yourself on the page and go through the editing process. To write a book based on a series of so many other people's personal encounters, which took time to research, I think that totally qualifies you. Plus, you're obviously engaged in conventions, and you're doing your podcast every week. So that's awesome, man.
Oh, thank you. It's a lot of fun. I'm not going to lie. A lot of work, but a lot of fun. I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't enjoy it. So, hey, man, you're welcomed into that family anytime.
I appreciate that. Cheers. Thank you. So, have you, Ryan, seen a UFO?
I have. Yeah. I had a UFO sighting when I was 12 years old. That was kind of my, my initiation into this whole UFO world. I'd never been into UFOs. I wasn't into like sci-fi or anything. I was an athlete when I was a kid. Like baseball was my life. I thought I was going to be a professional baseball player. Well, what 12-year-old doesn't, I guess, at that point. But yeah, I was on a weekend getaway with my parents. We were up near the St. Lawrence River, right on the border of Canada and the U.S., New York. And we would stay at this motel called the Fisherman's Wharf Motel. I looked it up recently. They actually got rid of it, unfortunately.
The whole hotel's gone?
The motel's gone. It's like just kind of like what would you call that? Like a port almost, with like restaurants and little shops and stuff. It's cute. But when I was back, man, it was like this gritty motel, where you would go to fish. There was a dock right off of the motel, and I loved fishing. So I would just, I would go out there by myself, like right when it was turning dark even. I loved fishing when it was like just the sun was going down, and I would bring my Discman out. And I remember
meditation time. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, man. I loved it. Even as a 12-year-old, I needed that R&R apparently.
Seriously, yeah.
I was like an 80-year-old man. But no, I was listening to Green Day actually on my Discman. Okay. So that puts you back in the, what was it? The mid 90s. And I remember specifically the song Basket Case was playing. And I put my line out and I start reeling it in, and I see these lights in the water. So I get down and I'm like, what is that in the water? I literally thought there was something underneath there. So I bend down, and then I realize it was a reflection. So I get up, I look up, and that's when I saw it, whatever it was. It was, it had like 3 white triangles in a triangular formation, 3 white lights, excuse me, and sort of this red hazy ball in the middle. And there was no machinery. I didn't see like a craft or anything like that. But it was still pretty dramatic. It was just this triangular formation just hanging there in the sky. Wasn't moving. There was no sound whatsoever. I remember I like ripped my headphones off just to see if I could hear anything. And there was nothing. I just heard like the water that was hitting the dock. And I just staring up at this thing, and it felt like it was happening forever. I'm sure it was only a few seconds, but I finally yelled for my dad, who was inside our motel. I could see the door was open. I could like see his feet on the bed, and I'm yelling like, Dad, come out, please come out. And eventually he runs out. He thought like I fell in the water or something. And as he comes out, the thing, I'm not kidding you, starts moving, and it starts coasting over the water and heading across the river towards Canada. And he actually saw the tail end of it. So I knew I wasn't imagining this. I knew, it wasn't my imagination as a kid or anything. And we just both kind of watched it disappear, like over the water, like the cusp of where the water met the sky. And he told me it was a plane, of course, doing his fatherly duties, trying to calm me down. But he didn't see that thing like right above me, and how freaking big it was and how quiet it was. He just saw the tail end. So I knew it wasn't a plane, even as a 12-year-old. I wasn't an aviation expert, but I knew whatever the hell it wasn't a plane. That kind of just stuck with me, man, for years and years to come.
Yeah, I mean, once it gets its hooks in you, like that's it.
That was it, dude. It changed the whole course of my life. I'm not kidding you. Like, no matter what it was, it could have been anything, a blimp. It could have been some huge kite. It could have been a stealth craft. I don't know. It was the mid 90s, but it changed my life. And it kind of set me on this course to look at UFOs. And then it was just a chain effect from there. The snowball rolled down the hill, and I just became obsessed with the topic.
Well, it's the unexplained. It's still in that category. And so even if someone were to say to you, well, Ryan, it could be A or it could be B, those are just could be's. Those are also forms of speculation.
Absolutely.
I mean, skeptics do that all the time. We get charged with, oh, you guys are just speculating loosely. Well, I was like, you do the same thing. I feel like, you're saying it could be whatever. I don't know, but it could be. Well, that's what we're saying. It's just, two different perspectives.
That's a good point, man. I think a lot of people, skeptics get a bad rap too, I'm going to admit. But at the same
Yeah.
time, like they are pretty quick to dismiss things when they have absolutely no idea what it could have been. They weren't there when I saw this, so they can't tell me what I saw.
Yeah.
I'll probably never know what it was. But yeah, I try to stay open when it comes to skeptics because I am one myself. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I'm a skeptical believer.
I guess a better term would be debunker.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, debunkers are our worst enemy when they won't even look at the facts, the data, nothing. Just it was a weather balloon. It was swamp gas moving
That's it.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with I don't knows. And I feel like in the culture of ufology, a lot of people, they don't feel comfortable saying I don't know. They want to say yes, it is aliens or
Yeah.
it's a UFO. It has to be this, you know, and that's also not healthy either.
No, it's not. And let me tell you, anyone out there who says they have the answers and they know what's in control of UFOs, run for the hills. That's what I tell people.
Seriously.
Nobody knows, man. Ufology is I don't know. And
Well,
that's okay.
I would say the difference between, although I think you're opening your breadth of study a little bit more. But I think the difference between you and I, for instance, like when on my show, I host people who are like very speculative, like and very sort of out there with some of their ideas, right? Like just these aliens are here to save us, that sort of thing. I've been in contact with ETs, blah blah blah. And so I give them that platform to share that because I feel like most of the time the people that I'm speaking with are coming from a place of truth in their experience. Now how have they allowed their own truth to kind of run away with them? I don't know. But I think it's okay to leave that door open a little bit. But I had a guest recently, and I won't say who it was, that crossed the line for me. And I had to just draw a line in the sand. And the following week, I had to go on like my own diatribe, like distancing myself from that person.
Yeah.
Whereas you, I feel like you know, the nice thing about your approach is that it is a little bit more conservative, and but in a good way. You know, in a good way. You are saying like I don't know. I need data. I don't think, unless I'm wrong, do you entertain more of like those who have a spiritual experience with UFOs? Because I mean, most of the podcasts I feel like that I listen to, it's like hardcore ufologists, you know,
Yeah.
that are researching.
That's a really good question, man. I mean, I do come from a very experiencer oriented background when it comes to my form of ufology, I guess. I love interviewing witnesses. Witness testimony is
Yeah.
everything for me. You know, again, we can have a time and a date of a sighting, how big a craft was. But at the end of the day, it's the person having the experience that we have to rely on when we don't have all the data. So take that for what it's worth. A lot of people think stories are worthless and they don't get us anywhere. And I beg to differ. I think the story is everything. Every story has some sort of value, at least in what I'm looking at. And if I could start to make patterns between the stories, get these people together, that's another big one. I've had UFO witnesses who felt so alone and, you know, did think they were going crazy. And when I was able to hook them up with another witness that was there at the same time or had a similar sighting, like that's it for them. They now know they're not alone. So in terms of the spirituality thing, yeah, that's a big part of this as well. I mean, if you want to go down the sort of belief system route or even religious route, UFOs can be a religion. It is a faith based on, you know, it's a blind faith, I guess I would say, based on something we can't prove, yet we still believe in it. So
Yeah.
I think that's fascinating. It's a very sociological or cultural lens to look at the UFO topic through. And I love doing that because I love people. When I'm here in New York, you know, when you and I met up, that one time I was on my way to Broadway. I work in the theater world.
Yeah.
I love to write plays. So characters are my thing, man.
Yeah.
So if I can use what I've learned as a playwright and apply
Yes.
that to my UFO research,
Mm-hmm.
that's it for me. I've melded my worlds together that I never thought would collide.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
But I'm with you 100% on the whole spiritual aspect of it, of that personal experience that one can have. My concern is when someone starts sort of proselytizing and recruiting people into their, I don't want to say UFO cult, but
Yeah.
cult adjacent, maybe, you know what I mean? A belief system based on what they say these beings are telling them. And then I, not having any experience, just stumble across this person online or on a radio show, and I start believing and subscribing in what they're telling me. That's where it gets a little bit slippery for me. I mean, I try to ride that line without giving the wrong people the platform.
It's hard, man. I commend you because you are giving people a platform,
Mm-hmm.
and they're either going to use that for good or bad.
Right.
And I
Exactly.
will say right now, UFO field is full of charlatans and people taking advantage of people's belief systems. And I won't name names because they don't deserve the acknowledgement. They can come to me personally if they want to know. But yeah, it's sad. It's sad. But you find that in any field as
Yeah.
well. But this happens to be a special, unique field, either UFOs or even the paranormal, where a lot of it is based on belief. And people just want something to believe in, especially in today's world
Exactly.
where, things are very uncertain, especially right now. They don't want to think for themselves. They want someone to tell them what to believe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's tough. And I find myself doing that too sometimes, where I go on blind faith and believe something, and then I got to sort of rein myself in and be like, wait, like it's good in one way and it's bad in another. But as long as you stay grounded, I think that's where you're going to find that good middle ground for sure.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think if it's totally okay to entertain someone's idea, to kind of like hold it, but don't make it a part of you. It's like there is some mysticism, some truth in there. I think that's very fulfilling for us as humans, but we have to be careful about what we do with that information.
Oh, absolutely. It's a big responsibility, especially like you said, when you start doing the podcasting thing or speaking at these conventions. There's so many times where I go to these things and I sit in the back of the room and I just did my talk or whatever, and another speaker comes on and they're just so out there and so ridiculous that I'm like, oh my God, like what am I doing here? Am I enabling these people?
Yeah.
Or it's such a fine line, such a fine line. And I think, again, as long as you give everyone the same respect when they're telling you a story, and hear them out, it's up to you what to do with that information, whether you're going to put it out to the world or be like, maybe I'm going to keep that one at the bottom of the pile.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think many of us, our first exposure to a number of these topics in ufology and paranormal came from programs like Coast to Coast AM. And when I was always listening to it, when I first started listening to it, when we had moved out to California for a short time, and actually going cross country, my uncle was like, "Hey, check this radio station out," and I think that I always saw it as it's okay that it's like there's a partial entertainment aspect to it. It's thought provoking like a science fiction book is.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think speculative is totally okay, long as you understand, and you're rational about it to a degree. So the next question is: have you seen? Because we're definitely going over time. Have you seen a cryptid or a ghost?
Yeah. Well, let me rephrase that.
Okay.
I've experienced what I think was a ghost, and I won't take up too much time. But yeah, I was in Nova Scotia. in Liverpool, Nova Scotia, of all places.
Mhm.
And I was at a ghost hunt, and I'd never done one of these things before. I went in totally like, this will be entertaining, whatever. I had a few beers in me, and I'm like, okay, let's see how this goes. I'm a UFO guy going into a ghost hunt. And I was really skeptical, I'm not going to lie. The
Mhm.
whole ghost thing has always been really in my gray basket until this night.
Okay.
So I had an experience where I was sitting there, and excuse the sirens in the background. Welcome to
New
New
York.
York during a pandemic. Yeah, it's every like 5 minutes. Um,
Mm.
yeah, so I'm trying to communicate with what we were told was a young girl in this building. I was in a county museum, and we were trying to communicate over a spirit box, these machines where they flip through radio signals, frequencies, I should say. You try to pick things up.
Mhm.
That wasn't working at the time. Then we started to get some weird stuff go through it. Cries of a little girl, laughs of a little girl. It was a little creepy.
Mhm.
But that didn't sell me on anything, to be honest,
Okay.
until I was sitting by myself in a corner, and I felt this weight go down on my legs. I was sitting cross-legged on the ground,
Mhm.
and it felt like someone was sitting in my lap.
Whoa.
And then I felt like cold fingertips on the back of my neck, almost like someone was sitting in my lap and like hugging me.
Yeah.
And just like, and it felt like a child, I'm not going to lie. And then as soon as I reacted to it, it felt like the weight was lifted off and it rushed out of the room.
Yeah.
Um, Meantime, one of my very skeptical friends was in the doorway, and he moved out of the way of the doorway for no reason. He didn't know why, nothing.
At the
So
moment when this thing was moving away from you.
yeah, when it felt like it got up and like went away.
Yeah.
So take that for what you will, but it was something I felt that convinced me that there was some sort of energy there. It
Right.
definitely felt like a child, and it was a little scary, but it was actually more comforting, to
Mhm.
be honest. Having a ghost, hug you is a lot better than scaring the bejesus out of you.
You
So
you have a friend in the ghost world, so you kind of like
apparently.
feel a little protected, you know?
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
what I did to deserve that. I've been, ribbing on ghost hunters my whole life, but no, I have a newfound respect for the paranormal community, ghost hunters, and
Mhm.
yeah, man, that was definitely it had a lasting impact on me.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of filler in Ghost Hunters and shows like this for sure, for sure. But having talked to some of those people, investigators and ghost hunters on the program, they know that there's a certain amount of entertainment that they have to do, but it doesn't mean that they don't sincerely believe in what they're looking for, and they haven't had actual experiences on their own.
Oh yeah. I'm sure behind the scenes there's a lot of things that don't make it on camera that could be considered paranormal. But again, it's
Mhm.
television, it's entertainment.
It is, yeah.
So you take that for what you will, and you just hope something sticks.
Right. It's like Ancient Aliens. Everything they say is true.
Yes, yes. In theory, yeah.
In
Could it
theory.
be that's
Could
their
it be the
safeguard?
same narrator, same producer for Curse of Oak Island?
Yeah.
Could it be?
Could
That's
it
the hook
be?
line. Yep.
Yeah.
What if?
Ancient Aliens, just the kings of
Yeah.
memes and pop culture. Yeah.
But are you to watch Curse of Oak Island?
I've seen it. I actually, when I was in Nova Scotia, I got to go on the island,
Oh, nice.
which was, I didn't know about the show at the time. I didn't know the lore and the mystery behind it really.
Hmm.
But I was with a mutual colleague, Micah Hanks, and they actually led us onto the island. And they've got like this really cool, like cultural center almost, like museum
Yeah.
about the mystery.
Hmm.
So we got to walk around and hear the history and lore about it. And I will say, being on that little island, like it's got an energy unlike anything I've really felt
You can
before.
feel
And
it.
whether that's years of history sort of impacting me as I was learning it, but yeah, it was interesting to say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the series is finally it's getting really interesting, but it's just they take a summer's worth of research and spread it out over like what is it, like 20 episodes or something.
Yeah.
Like I've gotten to the point where I just skipped like every one or two episodes because they recap anyway, like
Yeah.
5 times throughout the show. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
2 weeks ago they found blah 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 blah.
It reminds me of Monty Python, Holy Grail. Like, get on with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was like, you can do this in like 6 episodes.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting. It's really the number of artifacts and discoveries they found at this point, and structures really deep that are totally like pre-searcher at this point. It's
oh wow. Yeah. Oh, I'll have to check it out for sure.
All right, so then we'll just boil this down to one last question. We kind of covered it a little bit, I think, but what do you think needs to change in ufology, and or what is the future of ufology?
Wow. Yeah, I'll try to answer that as best I can. I'm no authority on what should change because I'm learning as I go too. But in my personal opinion, I think the tribalism has to change. You see this in any community or field, as it were, but I notice a lot in ours, and it's always been there. You might have a theory, and then 10 other people have a theory, and they pounce on you, and they won't leave you alone, and you're the idiot, not them. So yeah, I think in terms of that, ever since social networking has started, Twitter especially, could be used for good, but it's also can be very, very mean-spirited at times too. So I think what needs to change is the closed-mindedness. I think people need to just be more accepting of one another and our theories. And I do see that happening. So, I mean, in terms of where I think it's heading, I'm loving this new thing on Twitter. It's hashtag UFO Twitter. So I suggest everyone put on notifications for it or whatever. You got a really passionate group of people, and it's growing every day, just having conversations about UFOs. Sure. And it's younger people who are on Twitter. So you're not getting the 80, 90-year-old gatekeepers telling you everything you do is irrelevant or wrong or inaccurate. You've got a very supportive younger generation coming into the field of ufology who are ready to ask new questions instead of talking about Roswell again or, these cases from 40 years ago. Nothing wrong with that. I do that on my show all the time. But I think it's exciting and refreshing to see new people coming in and really getting out there. And I'm excited for the future of ufology for sure.
All right, nice. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, man. Hey, cheers.
Cheers,
brother. We both need this right now. And
indeed,
stay healthy, stay safe, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll put links for Ryan's website and podcast down below. And cheers to you all, and please stay safe during this odd COVID-19 period that we're going through. All right, brother. Take care.
You too.
Hey everyone, if you like today's content, please like, subscribe, comment down below, share, and click the notification bell for future content. Thank you very much for your support. Take care.